हजुर नमस्कार सबैलाई म डाक्टर उदय कोइराला काठमाडौँ मोडल हस्पिटलबाट म चाहिँ सर्जन हो मसँग यहाँ मेरो साथी पनि हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर अरविन्द जोशी हुनुहुन्छ चाहिँ इन्ट्रोड्युस गर्नुहोस् म डाक्टर अरविन्द जोशी म CTO of हस्पिटलमा काम गर्दैछु अहिले यहाँ गर्दैछु मलाई चाहिँ वेलकम छ अनि त्यसै गरी हाम्रो टेक्निकलमा चाहिँ हजुर सुनिराखेको छ
हजुर सुनेछ सर सुनेछ क्लियर
रोजेनजी हुनुहुन्छ चाहिँ टेक्निकल इन्जिनियरिङमा हुनुहुन्छ है अब सुरु गरौँ आज चाहिँ डाक्टर शङ्कर मान राई र हाम्रो रवि बज्राचार्यजीको चाहिँ प्रेजेन्टेसन छ शेड्युलमा हामीले सुरुमा डाक्टर शङ्कर मान राईको उहाँको राखेको थियौँ र उहाँ प्रिपेयर हुँदै हुनुहुन्छ त्यही भएर सुरुमा चाहिँ हामीले रविजीको प्रेजेन्टेसनबाट सुरु गर्छौँ रविजी चाहिँ उहाँ वाइज्याक कम्पनीको चाहिँ CTO हुनुहुन्छ उहाँले चाहिँ मेनली क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट टेक्नोलोजीमा यो पेसेन्ट केयर म्यानेजमेन्टमा चाहिँ यो सफ्टवेयरहरूमा काम गरिरहनु भएको छ र चाहिँ हामीलाई यो पेसेन्ट केयरको सफ्टवेयरको बारेमा उहाँले चाहिँ केही इन्ट्रोडक्सन र केही कुराहरू चाहिँ बताउनु हुनेछ रविजी तयार हुनुहुन्छ
हजुर हेलो सुनिन्छ मेरो भोइस क्लियर छ कि छैन लेट मी नो so hopefully सुन्नुमा के प्रब्लम भयो भने मलाई इन्फर्म गर्नुभयो हुन्छ म चाहिँ रवि बज्राचार्य म अहिले वाइज्याक इन्क भन्ने कम्पनीमा चाहिँ म काम गर्छु हामी चाहिँ क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको टेक्नोलोजी चाहिँ बिल्ड गर्दैछौँ अहिले चाहिँ 2.5 years जति भयो हामी यसमा इन्भल्भ भइरहेको अनि आजको प्रेजेन्टेसनमा चाहिँ बेसिकली यो क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको चाहिँ एउटा बेसिक ओभरभ्यू र सर्टन युज केसेसहरू चाहिँ म आज प्रेजेन्ट गर्न लाग्यो सो होपफुली सबैले चाहिँ मेरो स्लाइड्सहरू देखिरहनु भएको छ होला सो क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको चाहिँ डेफिनेसन चाहिँ समराइज गर्नु पर्दाखेरि यो चाहिँ एउटा यसो टुल या सर्भिस हो जसबाट चाहिँ वी क्यान गेट सम गाइडेन्स होइन यो पेसेन्टको स्पेसिफिक डेटा हेरेर चाहिँ इट क्यान गिभ द फिजिसियन्स र नर्सेसहरूलाई चाहिँ सर्टन स्पेसिफिक गाइडेन्स अन डायग्नोसिस ट्रिटमेन्ट अनि examples for example it could be alert भनौँ न हैन कुनै ड्रग इन्टरेक्सनको अलर्ट आउन सक्छ या कुनै स्पेसिफिक डायग्नोसिसको बारेमा चाहिँ क्लिनिकल गाइडलाइनहरू चाहिँ देखाउन सकिन्छ यो चाहिँ रेफरेन्स इन्फर्मेसन भयो हैन अनि पेसेन्टको भाइटल्सहरू उसको हिस्ट्री हेरेर चाहिँ सर्टन अर्डर सेट्सहरू चाहिँ अटोमेटिकली जेनेरेट गर्न सकिन्छ सो यिनीहरू सबै चाहिँ सम एक्जाम्पल अफ क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट अनि मेन पर्पज सिरियसको चाहिँ के हो भने बेसिकली टु प्रोभाइड गाइडेन्स रेफरेन्स भनौँ न अनि कन्टेक्चुअल रेफरेन्स र गाइडेन्स एट द पोइन्ट अफ केयर होइन अनि यसको पर्पज चाहिँ इट्स नट एक्ज्याक्टली टु रिप्लेस अ ह्युमन बिङ होइन अ डक्टर अ नर्स यसको चाहिँ मेनली टु प्रोभाइड एसिस्टेन्स टु देम भनौँ न द्याट इज द मेन पर्पज किनभने अहिले चाहिँ अब यु क्यानट रिप्लेस द्याट जजमेन्ट ह्युमन जजमेन्ट भनौँ न युजिङ अ मेसिन होइन अनि सिरियसको पर्पज चाहिँ त्यो होइन अनि ब्रोड स्केलमा चाहिँ क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको फङ्सन चाहिँ यसरी हामीले स्ट्राटिफाई गर्न सकिन्छ बेसिक चाहिँ यो अलर्ट रिमाइन्डर्सहरू जुन चाहिँ सर्टन इभेन्ट या सर्टन कन्डिसनले चाहिँ ट्रिगर हुन्छ होइन लाइक अब पेसेन्टलाई चाहिँ कुनै एउटा उसलाई कन्फ्लिक्ट हुने ड्रग दिइरहेको छ भने चाहिँ द्याट कुड बी एन अलर्ट अर्को चाहिँ अब क्लिनिकल गाइडलाइन्स रेफरेन्स इन्फर्मेसन लाइक फर इक्जाम्पल अब कुनै कुनै एउटा कन्डिसन ट्रिट भइरहेको छ त्योसँग रिलेभेन्ट रेफरेन्स इन्फर्मेसन लाइक अब पबमेडको जर्नलहरू कुनै क्लिनिकल ट्रायलको इन्फर्मेसनहरू तिनीहरू चाहिँ फिजिसियन्सको अगाडि चाहिँ रेफरेन्सको रूपमा ल्याउने पनि द्याट्स वान फर्म अफ सिडिएस अनि अर्को चाहिँ अब डायग्नोसिसमा भयो लाइक फर इक्जाम्पल डिफरेन्सियल डायग्नोसिस गर्दाखेरि यो पेसेन्टको सिम्टमहरू उसको ल्याबको रिपोर्टहरू अर्डर रिजल्टहरू हेरेर चाहिँ डायग्नोस्टिक सजेसन्सहरू गर्ने पनि एउटा क्याटेगोरी भयो सो सिमिलरली यो स्मार्ट फर्म्स र अर्डर सेट जेनेरेसन पनि द्याट्स वान ब्रड क्याटेगोरी क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको अनि क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टलाई चाहिँ दिस इज वान वे टु थिङ्क अबाउट इट इट्स लाइक अ जिपिएस तपाईँको लोकेसन हेरेर वेयर टु गो भन्ने गाइडेन्स चाहिँ दिने एउटा भनौँ न इट्स अ टुल फर द्याट अनि अब टिपिकल क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्टको कम्पोनेन्ट चाहिँ एउटा युजर हुन्छ इन विच केस इट क्यान बी पेसेन्ट अल्सो पेसेन्ट पनि एउटा युजर हुनसक्छ अनि अर्को कम्पोनेन्ट चाहिँ तपाईँको इन्फर्मेसन बिङ डेलिभर्ड होइन in which some of the example can be clinical knowledge, research data, and so on. अनि एउटा चाहिँ अब थर्ड कम्पोनेन्ट चाहिँ च्यानल कुन चाहिँ च्यानलबाट डेलिभर भइरहेको छ अनि यो चाहिँ एउटा भेरी सिम्पल एक्जाम्पलको स्क्रिनसट भनौँ यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा ड्रग छ अनि त्यसको चाहिँ पोसिबल एलर्जी वार्निङ होइन this is one very good example of clinical decision support. So maybe the patient has your drug being like as a nurse, and she could get this warning. It's not possible. So the patient could be allergic to this drug. One here is a warning. And possible allergies are hives. Then they get and same thing in this case. यहाँ चाहिँ पेसेन्टको रेकर्ड हेर्दाखेरि पेसेन्ट इज एलर्जिक टु पेनिसिलिन भनेर चाहिँ देखेकोले अब त्यसको एउटा अल्टरनेटिभ चाहिँ निकाल्नुपर्ने हुन्छ होइन सो दिस इज अल्सो एन एक्जाम्पल अफ डिसिजन सपोर्ट यो चाहिँ बेस्ड अन पेसेन्ट डेटा अब उसलाई चाहिँ के ल्याबोरेटरी डायग्नोस्टिक टेस्टहरू र ल्याब रिजल्टको टेस्टहरू चाहिँ के गर्नुपर्ने र के मोनिटरिङहरू गर्नुपर्ने एउटा अर्डर सेट चाहिँ जेनेरेट गरेको भनौँ न यो पनि दिस आई गेस अब बेस्ड अन चेन्जेस इन गाइडलाइन यो पनि चेन्ज भइरहन्छ सो यो चाहिँ पोइन्ट अफ केयरमा चाहिँ यदि वी कुड प्रोभाइड दिस टु द नर्स अर डक्टर होइन दे कुड काइन्ड अफ युज दिस भेरी वेल भनौँ न अनि टाइप्समा चाहिँ जेनरली अब डेटा एन्ट्रीलाई हेल्प गर्नलाई पनि छ होइन लाइक फर इक्जाम्पल अब डकुमेन्टेसन फर्म अर्डर सेट चाहिँ त्यो डेटा एन्ट्रीको लागि चाहिँ हेल्प गर्छ त्यसले अनि मोनिटरिङको लागि चाहिँ डेटा रिभ्यू टास्कहरूको क्याटेगोरी इज भेरी हेल्पफुल अनि डिफरेन्सियल डायग्नोसिस भयो तिनीहरू चाहिँ यो एसेसमेन्ट गर्दाखेरि फिजिसियन्सलाई चाहिँ हेल्पफुल हुने सिडिएसको सिस्टम हो दिज आर जस्ट सम भेरी ब्रिफ लिस्ट अफ सम एक्जाम्पल्स भनौँ न ड्रग इन्टरेक्सन्स ड्रग एलर्जी इन्टरेक्सन्स पिक लिस्ट भनेर चाहिँ द्याट्स सजेसन्स अफ मेडिकेसन्स बेस्ड अन पेसेन्टको लाइक अब सेक्ससँग रिलेटेड होला एसँग होला होइन अनि एउटा अर्को चाहिँ डायग्नोस्टिक डिसिजन सपोर्ट अनि यो क्लिनिकल एरिया चाहिँ एट डिफरेन्ट पोइन्ट्स इन द वर्क फ्लो भनौँ न मेडिकेसन म्यानेजमेन्ट भनेको चाहिँ तपाईँको प्रेसक्रिप्सन गर्दाको फेज भयो डायग्नोसिस चाहिँ फिजिसियनले असेस गरेको फेजमा भयो ल्याबोरेटरी रेडियोलोजी it could even be for infectious disease reporting भनौँ न. Like for example, अब कुनै नर्सलाई चाहिँ they might need to report some very infectious outbreak to WHO हैन. यो केसमा पनि अब CDS को चाहिँ like for example, they might have to code the disease in ICD-10 हैन. अनि त्यो केसहरुमा चाहिँ decision support युज गर्न सकिन्छ. अनि अब so also basically we looked at what is decision support, त्यसको different types, अनि कुन पोइन्टमा चाहिँ युज गर्न सकिन्छ हैन. तर त्यसको भ्यालु चाहिँ के हो त हैन, लाइक व्हाई डु यु वान्ट टु युज क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट. अनि एउटा मेन पर्पज अफ क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट चाहिँ क्वालिटीको लागि हो. अब क्वालिटी चाहिँ कसरी भने बाई हेल्पिङ द स्टाफ टु स्टिक टु द बेस्ट प्र्याक्टिसेस. अब वी अलरेडी नो अब नेपालको केसमा चाहिँ वी हेभ अब यो डक्टर हस्पिटलमा चाहिँ भोल्युम एकदम हाई छ. इट्स भेरी डिफिकल्ट टु मेन्टेन द क्वालिटी हैन, किनभने डक्टर्स हेभ टु अटेन्ड टु भनौँ न लाइक एनीवेयर फ्रम 50 to 100 पेसेन्ट्स अ डे. द्याट्स क्वाइट अ लट अफ देम. अनि दे कम विथ सो मेनी डिफ्रेन्ट काइन्ड अफ कन्डिसन्स. अब सबैको लागि बेस्ट प्र्याक्टिस कसरी फलो गर्ने, क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट क्यान हेल्प इन द्याट सिनारियो. अर्को चाहिँ अब त्यही यो cost reduction, making sure documentation is generated. अनि अब एउटा particular use case चाहिँ telemedicine मा पनि हो, where अब telemedicine भनेर simply it's not just seeing someone remotely हैन यो आफ्नो स्क्रिनमा, but also to exchange the information. अनि clinical decision support can help in that scenario. And here's another slide. I actually got it from a study. And उनीहरूले चाहिँ अब यो order entry मा चाहिँ clinical decision support use गरेपछि how the errors has gone down. So यो चाहिँ particularly एउटा particular drug को doses. This could be antibiotics भनौँ न. अहिलेको चाहिँ अब over prescription antibiotics भइरहेको छ. त्यसलाई चाहिँ maybe अब hospital aim चाहिँ how to reduce it. त्यो केसमा चाहिँ clinical decision support can help by doing serious intervention भनौँ न. certain केसमा चाहिँ doses कम दिनुपर्ने भयो, नचाहिने पनि हुन सक्छ. त्यो चाहिँ अब serious चाहिँ it could flag at the right time. अनि अर्को अपोजिटमा चाहिँ अब गुड बेस्ट प्र्याक्टिसको कुराहरू चाहिँ यदि फलो भएको छ भने त्यसलाई पनि इम्प्रुभ गर्न सकिन्छ. लाइक यो केसमा चाहिँ रिकमेन्डेड यो प्रेस्क्रिप्सन चाहिँ अडप्सन नभएको अनि यो सिरियस युज गरेपछि चाहिँ त्यो हाई अडप्सन इन्क्रिज भएको चाहिँ एउटा ग्राफ भनौँ न. अब implementation को कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ there is quite a bit of challenge in adopting CDS. एउटा चाहिँ अब speed भनौँ न. अब typically we don't want to slow down the physician. अब they are working at a certain pace. अब CDS introduce गर्दाखेरि it might distract them हैन. उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ आफ्नो वर्कफ्लोबाट चाहिँ ध्यान कम्प्युटरमा दिएर they have to do a lot of things. So एउटा च्यालेन्ज चाहिँ त्यो पनि छ, हाउ डु यु इन्टिग्रेट इट इन्टु द वर्कफ्लो हैन. अर्को चाहिँ अब कुनै सिरियसको मेकानिजम चाहिँ अलर्ट छ भने चाहिँ अलर्ट फेटिग हुन सक्छ. लाइक देयर कुड बी सो मेनी अलर्ट्स दैट पीपल काइन्ड अफ ट्युन आउट हैन. अर्को चाहिँ अब मेबी हस्पिटलको म्यानेजमेन्ट मे नट अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड द इम्पोर्टेन्स अफ सिरियस अनि म्यानेजमेन्टको ब्याकिङ या लिडरसिपको ब्याकिङ चाहिँ नहुन सक्छ. सो इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनमा चाहिँ देयर इज अ कपल अफ च्यालेन्जेस. यो स्लाइडमा चाहिँ just few things that need to be kind of addressed in order to help with the adoption भनौँ न. एउटा मेन चाहिँ यो fit into the user's workflow is very important हैन. अब यदि आफ्नो वर्कफ्लोबाट डेभिएट भएर चाहिँ हेर्नु पर्यो भने that implementation is not going to work, किनभने that is actually going to distract the physician from what he is doing. उनीहरूको थट प्रोसेसबाट चाहिँ डिस्ट्र्याक्सन हुन्छ सो द्याट इज one मेजर च्यालेन्ज sometimes एकदम simple intervention is best होइन rather than coming up with some very elaborate technical setup भन्दा पनि simple interventions पनि works very well अनि नर्मल इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनमा चाहिँ we have to think of 5 rights भन्छौँ होइन त्यसमा अब what is the information being delivered अनि who for whom it is being delivered अनि using what channel होइन यो where भनेको छ अनि कुन चाहिँ फर्मेट र कुन पोइन्टमा वर्क फ्लो हो सो राइट इम्प्लिमेन्टेसनको लागि चाहिँ यो 5वटा कुराहरू चाहिँ you have to keep in mind like for example there's a sample implementation भनौँ न let's say हस्पिटलको गोल चाहिँ यो venous thromboembolism को appropriate prophylaxis भन्ने ट्रिटमेन्ट चाहिँ appropriate ट्रिटमेन्ट चाहिँ 90% भन्दा बढी पेसेन्टलाई चाहिँ दिने हो भने चाहिँ क्लिनिकल डिसिजन सपोर्ट चाहिँ कसरी हेल्प गर्न सक्छ अब यहाँ चाहिँ यो 5 पोइन्ट्स लाइक when what how who र where हैन अब त्यसो मेट्रिक्समा चाहिँ we can plan out the CDS intervention अनि अब for example अब assessment चाहिँ it could be simple question answering हैन prompt अनि who भन्दाखेरि नर्सले चाहिँ using EHR गर्न सक्छ so यो मेट्रिक्सबाट चाहिँ we can plan out a possible implementation भनौँ न अब so before I wrap up होइन एउटा couple of screen shares म गर्न जान्छु यो चाहिँ बेसिक खाली just to give an idea of how a CDS would work भनौँ न so म actually quickly screen share गरिहाल्छु let me know if it doesn't show up यो डाउनलोड screen share गर्नु स्क्रिन सेयर भइरहेको छ तपाईँले देखिरहनु भएको छ निराजनजी तपाईँले स्क्रिन देखिरहनु भएको छ मेरो स्क्रिन ए प्रेजेन्टेसन
छ देखिरहनु भएको छ कन्टिन्यू गर्दा हुन्छ
ए यो अहिले यो न्यू केस भनेर देखिरहेको छ तिनीहरू स्लाइड मात्रै देखेको छ
स्लाइड मात्रै देखेछ अहिले नीड फर लिडरशिप कमिटमेन्ट को स्लाइड चाहिँ देखिरहेछ
ए यसो हुँदाखेरि यो स्क्रिन सेयर चाहिँ काम गर्छ स्क्रिन सेयर चाहिँ काम गरेन अनफर्चुनेटली स्क्रिन सेयर चाहिँ काम गरेन यो मेरोमा सेटअप नभएको कि the screen share went right now, unfortunately. But maybe just a quick wrap up. So, no, different was a example. It's a differential diagnosis. That's like you can enter symptom, patient को symptom, उनको lab result को data, until a differential diagnosis or success गर्छ, and the diagnosis select गरेपछि चाहिँ त्योसँग related medicationहरू र lab or testहरू के गर्न सकिन्छ हैन. So अब त्यो कुरा चाहिँ पोटेन्शियली अब डक्टरले चाहिँ कहाँ युज गर्न सकिन्छ भने यदि सेम पेसेन्ट इज रिटर्निङ भनौँ न यो इमर्जेन्सी केस र एम्बुलेटरी सेटिङमा चाहिँ उसको डायग्नोसिस भएन ऊ चाहिँ रिटर्न भइरहेको छ पेसेन्ट एडमिट भइसक्यो तर उसको डायग्नोसिस 24 आवर्स भइसक्यो भएको छैन फर इक्जाम्पल भने चाहिँ यु क्यान युज दिस टुल्स हैन टु काइन्ड अफ फाइन्ड आउट किन नभएको रहेछ. अब एडप्सनको लागि चाहिँ अब लिडरसिपको चाहिँ कमिटमेन्ट निड्स टु बी देयर किनभने यो सिरियस इन्टरभेन्सनहरू चाहिँ it's something that needs to be kind of taken care of continuously हैन one step at a time अनि अघिको चार्ट देखाए जस्तो अब कुन चाहिँ वर्कफ्लोको कुन चाहिँ पार्टमा कसले कुन बेला यो अप्लाई गर्ने हो त्यो कुराहरू चाहिँ त्यो गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. Sound is not clear भनेर आएको छ. अहिले कस्तो छ? How is it? Anyways, so मेरो स्क्रिन सेयर चाहिँ अलिकति भएन. So maybe if somebody is interested in seeing that and मलाई your email address email गर्नुभयो भने so maybe I could do a demo. अनि so maybe I can take some questions next 5 minutes.
कतिबाट केही क्वेशनहरु छ भने
So if questionहरु छैन भने I think I'm concluded with the presentation.
हजुर थ्यांक यू रवि जी. क्वेशन त पक्कै पनि छ थुप्रै क्वेशनहरु छ है र सायद अब यो कति कुरा गर्दै गएपछि हामीले बारेमा अझै सिक्दै गएपछि चाहिँ अझै क्वेशनहरु र इम्प्रुभ गर्नुपर्ने ठाउँहरु हामीले चाहिँ एडभाइस गर्न सक्छौं होला र भेरी नाइस प्रेजेन्टेसन. थ्यांक यू रवि जी. अहिले अब धेरैजना कनेक्सनमा आउनु भएको छ. एकचोटी सबैजनाले आफ्नो ठाउँबाट चाहिँ इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला. म पालै पालो नाम भन्दै जान्छु. निराजन जी कीर्तिपुर हस्पिटलबाट त्यहाँ को हुनुहुन्छ आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन एउटा गरिदिनुस्. नेम्सको चाहिँ प्लिज म्युट गरिदिनु है. आफू नबोल्ने बेलामा चाहिँ प्लिज म्युट गरिदिनु होला. निराजनजी सुरु गर्नुहोस्। निराजनजी
हजुर हजुर
इन्ट्रोडक्सन
छोटो
इन्ट्रोडक्सन हजुर
हजुर विशाल कार्की हुनुहुन्छ या प्लास्टिक सर्जन या केटीपुर हस्पिटलबाट हजुर हुन्छ यही आएर बोल्नु।
नमस्ते सबैजनालाई, म डाक्टर विशाल कार्की केटीपुर हस्पिटलको प्लास्टिक सर्जरी डिपार्टमेन्टबाट बोल्दैछु। सबैलाई नमस्ते।
थ्याङ्क यू। त्यसपछि भरतपुर हस्पिटलबाट यहाँ क्यामेरामा देखिएको छैन, कोही हुनुहुन्छ प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला। भरतपुर हस्पिटल कोही हुनुहुन्छ भरतपुर हस्पिटलबाट? त्यसपछि धुलीखेल हस्पिटल प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला।
Good afternoon, everyone. म चाहिँ डाक्टर सुनिल श्रेष्ठ अनि म चाहिँ डाक्टर अदिति मिश्रा, धुलीखेल हस्पिटलबाट।
थ्याङ्क यू। त्यसपछि आइओएममा हाम्रो सर नै हुनुहुन्छ, शङ्कर मान राई सर, आज उहाँले प्रेजेन्ट नै गर्नुहुन्छ। सर प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन।
म शङ्कर राई, काम म कृतिपुरसँग गर्छु, तर यहाँ अर्को कामले आउँदाखेरि यहाँ नजिकै पर्या।
सरको भोल्युम सानो भयो सर, स्पिकर अलि नजिक राख्नु पर्यो। गुन्जनजी
म शङ्कर राई, म कृतिपुरसँग काम गर्छु, तर अहिले यहाँ इन्स्टिट्युट अफ मेडिसिनमा अर्को प्रेजेन्टेसनको लागि आउँदाखेरि अनि यहाँ नजिक पर्या हुनाले अनि यहीँबाट प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्न सकिन्छ कि भनेर भने हो। विशाल डाक्टर पनि हुनुहुन्छ कृतिपुरमा। सुनियो?
हजुर हस् थ्याङ्क यू। त्यसपछि हाम्रो हेमन्तजी एनरेनबाट हुनुहुन्छ, प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला। हेमन्तजी तपाईँको माइक्रोफोन अन रहेछ हेमन्तजी, तपाईँको स्पिकर मात्र छ, तपाईँको माइक्रोफोन अन छैन। हस् त्यसपछि मनोकामना हस्पिटलबाट को हुनुहुन्छ, प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला।
हजुर नमस्कार, म डाक्टर अर्जुन श्रेष्ठ, मनकाम अस्पतालबाट, म अर्थोपेडिक सर्जन। र शङ्करमान डाक्टर साहबलाई मेरो नमस्कार।
हस् थ्याङ्क यू, वेलकम टु द प्रेस ग्रुप।
थ्याङ्क यू।
हस् त्यसपछि न्याम्सबाट को हुनुहुन्छ, प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला।
नमस्कार, गुड आफ्टरनुन एभ्रिवान। म डाक्टर प्रफ प्लास्टिक सर्जन, बिरस्टर न्याम्स। सरलाई पनि नमस्कार। नमस्ते, म डाक्टर सुनिल थापा, एमसिएस रेजिडेन्ट, प्लास्टिक सर्जरी सेकेन्ड इयर। सर नमस्ते।
गुड आफ्टरनुन, म डाक्टर विष्णु पौडेल, हाम्रो रेजिडेन्ट डाक्टर हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर अनि हाम्रो इन्चार्ज सिस्टर हुनुहुन्छ अनि हाम्रो तिलक भाइ कम्प्युटर इन्जिनियर एक्सपर्ट, हाम्रो सबै कन्ट्याक्ट गर्ने
हस् थ्याङ्क यू सर। त्यसपछि पासबाट को हुनुहुन्छ, प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला।
नमस्कार सबैमा, मेरो नाम डाक्टर बिदान सिगेल, म फर्स्ट इयर सर्जरी रेजिडेन्ट।
नमस्कार, मेरो नाम डाक्टर विगत नेपाल, म सर्जरी रेजिडेन्ट हो। नमस्ते, म चाहिँ डाक्टर निश्चल अनि म चाहिँ यहाँ मेडिकल अफिसर सर्जरी
तपाईँहरूको भोइस अलिकति क्लियर छैन, स्पिकर सायद अलिकति नजिक राख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कि।
सबैलाई नमस्कार। हामी यहाँ सर्जरी रेजिडेन्ट्स र मेडिकल अफिसर्स छौँ। फेरि गर्दा लानु होला। सबैलाई नमस्कार।
थ्याङ्क यू। समीर, डाक्टर समीर, उहाँको माइक्रोफोन र क्यामेरा अन छैन। प्युठानबाट सायद जोइन गर्नुभएको छ उहाँले। र हाम्रो सुदीपजी हुनुहुन्छ, प्लिज आफ्नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन गरिदिनु होला। त्यही त सुदीपजी, तपाईँको पनि माइक्रोफोन अन रहेछ, सरी। हस्, अब हाम्रो डाक्टर शङ्कर मान राई प्रोफेसर, उहाँ चाहिँ प्लास्टिक सर्जरीमा, सायद अब उहाँलाई नचिनेको कोही पनि छैन होला। धेरै वर्षदेखि नै प्लास्टिक सर्जरीमा यो स्पेसली यो क्लेफ्ट प्यालेट रिपेयरहरूमा चाहिँ लिप र प्यालेटको रिपेयरमा एकदमै योगदान दिनुभएको छ। र अहिले एकदमै बर्नको पेसेन्टहरूमा चाहिँ उहाँले धेरै नै हेल्प गरिरहनु भएको छ है। यो नेसनल सेन्टरको रूपमा नै कीर्तिपुर हस्पिटललाई चाहिँ डेभलप गर्न खोज्दै हुनुहुन्छ र नेसनल रेफरेन्स सेन्टरको रूपमा चाहिँ कीर्तिपुर हस्पिटलले काम गरिरहनु भएको छ। र उहाँले चाहिँ आफ्नो एउटा प्रेजेन्टेसन आज दिँदै हुनुहुन्छ। हस् सर।
हेलो, नमस्ते सबैजनालाई। अनि यो स्लाइड मैले यहीँबाट चेन्ज गर्न मिल्छ कि कीर्तिपुरबाट चेन्ज गर्ने हो? नेक्स्ट स्लाइड।
हजुर, मिल्छ सर, त्यहीँबाट गर्न सकिन्छ। मैले एक्सेस दिइसकेको छु स्लाइड।
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for giving this opportunity. In fact, I was at the teaching hospital for another presentation, but it's a great opportunity to be here in my alma mater. And it's really nice to see all the colleagues from all over the country. And thank you very much for staying there in your station this late to be a part of this presentation. Today, I'll be talking about the challenges that we have been facing in taking care of the burn patients in Nepal. The reason why I said Nepal is because within the last couple of years, we have had patients coming from as many as 67 districts out of 75 for taking care of the burn care. So now I think we can say the challenges are not only of one hospital, small hospital, it is the challenge of the whole country of Nepal. And this is our Kirtipur Hospital, which is a 100-bedded facility. This was aimed at opening up a new medical school by the government of Nepal. There are 4 buildings. You can see only 2 from the front, but there are 2 buildings on the back. Each of the buildings are 4-storied, so altogether there are 16 floors in this hospital, and some of the floors are not functional yet. We have a separate burn ward, burn ICU, 2 operating rooms which are dedicated for taking care of burn patients, and a team consisting of 5 plastic surgeons, qualified plastic surgeons as faculty, 6 plastic surgery residents, 3 maxillofacial surgeons, and the whole bunch of nutritionists, physiotherapists, and other people in the team. The number of the burn patients is increasing, which I'm going to talk more about it. The burns is considered as a forgotten global health crisis by WHO because nobody talks about it. It's all forgotten, but this is a real global health crisis. And we'll talk a little bit about why we call it really a global health crisis. The challenges, I would straightway go into challenges during which we'll talk about different aspects of the burn care, especially in Nepal. The number one challenge is the high burden of disease. The reason why this is like this is particularly because the incidence is very high in all the developing countries. In fact, 95% of the burn injuries of all the whole world occurs in the developing countries, poor countries like Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and more than 50% of the people who die of burn injuries are from Southeast Asia alone. That is the reason why WHO considers Southeast Asia as the epicenter of burn injuries. And in Nepal, there are more than 55,000 people who sustained burn injuries according to the annual report of the Ministry of Health, Government of Nepal. And all of you know probably by now that majority of our patients, especially in the remote areas, treat themselves. They do not go to the government hospitals to be reflected in this kind of data. So I think this is grossly underreported. The reason why this kind of situation in the whole world is because of this scenario. Even today, as we speak, more than 50% of the global population uses open fire for cooking, for keeping themselves warm, and also for lighting purpose. Until and unless we change the scenario, the global scenario is not going to change. Um, in our hospital, we found out that the number of the acute burn patients is increasing. This slide shows the number of the admissions. I'm not talking about the patients who come to the hospital. There are many patients who come to our outpatient clinic, and they are not even counted here. These are all the admitted burn patients. Look, in 2014, we had a total of 90 patients admitted in the hospital. The number increased almost double-fold almost each year, and now in 2018, February, in the month of January 2018, we had a total number of 122 patients admitted in 1 month. So this is how the number of patients is increasing in our hospital. It is not because the incidence of the burn is increasing, but because more and more people have started knowing about this facility. And it's not because we provide them a good care. We are still struggling to provide basic burn care. There is no way we can be proud of the kind of care we provide. We still have a long way to go. But because more and more patients know about this facility and more patients are being referred from other hospitals, the number of burn patients is increasing. We have been providing the post-burn contracture reconstruction in many different centers all over the country. The number of the patients who underwent, this kind of post-burn contracture reconstruction is the same. Every year we have been operating on 600, patients for the last almost 15 years. With the help of Research International, an organization based in California, US, non-profit organization. Now, the number hasn't gone down, particularly because we have not been able to provide adequate acute burn care in any part of the country. In all the hospitals, most of the burn units are overcrowded. There is not enough facility for taking care of them. The operating facilities are very limited. We do not have dedicated operating rooms and ICU care in most of the hospitals for these poor burn patients. And most of these burn patients are very poor. They are women and children. They do not have any political, power. For example, all the patients like kidney patients, cardiac patients, cancer patients, they can go and talk to the politicians. They can influence the politicians, the ministry, and planners, and all these people. But burn patients, when they are acutely burned, they are in the hospital's bed, fighting for their life. There is no way these people can influence the government mechanism for the provision of the care. The Research International, as I told you earlier, is an organization which is working in the prevention of the burn injuries, in the treatment of the acute burn patients, as well as in the prevention of the disabilities by treating acute burn patients and also treating these patients with post-burn contracture, deformities and disabilities. The second challenge is the poor outcome of the burn care. Even though the number of patients is increasing in the hospital, the outcome is very poor. In fact, the survival rate is very minimal. Once somebody has 40% burn, most of them die with 40% total body surface area deep burn, for the reason that we do not have enough skin left in the body to cover the defect after the excision of the burn. Burn mortality in general in the high income countries is very low compared to the low income countries, but that is usual. In Nepal, WHO claims that about 2,100 people die of burn injuries every year, according to WHO. That's the projected data. It's not the real data collected from the hospitals. But there was one report from Pokhara a long time ago about in about 1998 something, saying that 88, and then during that time, what they said was. If somebody sustains more than 40% total body surface area burn injuries, it would cause 100% mortality. Nobody survived more than 40% TBSA burns in Pokhara. That was a report from Pokhara, almost 20 years now. Now, the data that we collected in 2014, 90 patients admitted in the hospital, and we analyzed the mortality figure, and we found out that there was not a single patient who survived 40% burn in our hospital, in spite of all the effort that we put into it. Why? Because in 14, 16 years' time, the burn data did not change, the mortality did not change. But there are a lot of other statistics, health statistics, which have improved. For example, maternal mortality rate of Nepal came down remarkably. Infant mortality rate also came down remarkably. In fact, UN gave a medal to Nepal, a few years ago, because of the reason that we were able to bring the maternal mortality rate as well as the infant mortality rate remarkably down. But look at the burn mortality. It hasn't changed at all in 16, 18 years' time. Why? Because we have not done anything in this regard. Okay, to understand how poor our outcome is, you have to compare these two countries, USA and Nepal. Nepal has 13 million people population. USA has 300 million people. 10 times more people in the US. About 8 times more people sustain burn injuries in the US compared to Nepal. But look at the number of the people who die of burn injuries in these two countries. Not even 2 times more people die of burn injuries in the US compared to Nepal, whereas there are 8 times more people sustaining burn injuries and there are 10 times more people living in the US. This is not because the professionals, health professionals in Nepal are less knowledgeable or less experienced than their colleagues in the US. It's mainly because we do not have dedicated facilities for burn patients. We do not have the available facilities for burn care. Also the expenses that they do in the US for taking care of burn patients is nowhere compared to Nepal. In Nepal, we have, like if somebody spends 2 to 3 lakhs of rupees for taking care of their patients with major burns, most of our patients are very poor, so they cannot afford that much of money. But in the US, if somebody sustains a major burn, they spend about $1 million for taking care of one patient. With $1 million, actually, I can run my facility for 3 years without charging a single rupee to any patient. And similarly, this site shows, how the number of the patients went. But at the same time, look at the maximum TBSA we have saved. In 2014, as I told you, nobody survived 40% burn. In 15, we have 40% burn survived by using cadaveric skin. That slowly increased. The mortality rate went down. The maximum TBSA survival was 55% in 2016. And this was a patient who had 3 people, family members, who are donating skin for this one patient. That's how we could save this particular patient with 55% burn. But the maximum TBSA that we have been able to save is coming down. Look, by the time we were in February 2018, only 40% burn is the maximum burn that we have been able to save. So the third challenge is the limited burn care facility and team in Nepal. As I told you earlier, most of the other facilities, in the country cannot admit more than 10 patients at a time. They do not have adequate ICU facility dedicated for the burn patients. They do not have dedicated operating rooms available for the burn patients. Once you are treating major burn patients, you have to have a facility available, operating facility available every day. Otherwise, you won't be able to, excise them early. You cannot do the dressing changes under anesthesia every day. So you have to have a dedicated facility for the burn care, and that is not available in Nepal, and that is very limited wherever it is available. The lapse, the slide is not showing completely, but what it's trying to say is from the time of the injury to the time of the reconstructive surgery, our people are waiting for 18 years of time. That is how many people are getting burned and how much they are suffering from the burn injuries. This is something we really need to work on to decrease the suffering of the people. Now, the fourth problem is the expenses that is involved in the burn care. Burn care is expensive everywhere in the world, whether you talk about US or Nepal or any other country. But in the US, at least they do not have to worry about the expenses. Either they are covered with the insurance or the government or the hospital has to take care of them anyway if they are there, okay, in any burn center. But that is not true in Nepal. Most of our patients are very poor, and then again, it's very expensive. There is hardly any support from the government. I remember there was one burn specialist who was visiting us from UK. He was running a very nice burn center there. In fact, he is producing the best outcome results in the burn patients in the UK, in the whole of UK. Okay. Now, when he went back after spending a week with us, the first sentence that he wrote to one of the local newspapers was that I am so fortunate to be working in a country where I do not have to worry about the expenses of the burn care. That is what it is. Every time, whenever we admit a patient, whenever we are treating a burn patient, we always have to worry about their financial situation. We cannot treat them equally. Poor patients do not get the same kind of nutrition as patients who can afford. So burn care is very expensive. And then we have to find a way by which we can provide equal kind of care for the burn poor patients as well as patients who can afford. So this is really critical. And the reason that most of our patients are poor, they're women and children, they just do not have political voice. And because of these, patients who have major burns, obviously they will die. Patients who have minor burns, if they survive, they will develop deformities and disabilities like this. And WHO calculates that in a year, there are about 10 million people who cannot work for whole 1 year because of that deformities and disabilities as a result of the fire-related burns alone. And WHO collects only the fire-related burn data. It doesn't collect the electrical burn and other issues. So fire-related burns alone contributes 10 million disability-adjusted life year. And then if you multiply this 10 million dollars by the gross national production of each country, which is different for different countries, it comes out to be billions of dollars, which is being wasted every year. And burns is not just a health issue, it's a human right issue, it's a social issue. As I told you earlier, they have no political voices, they cannot influence any politicians, they cannot go to the ministry to harass the ministry and have some sort of help from the ministry like kidney patients or cancer patients can do. And burns also is an economic issue because the loss is about $80.2 billion every year just due to the disabilities and deformities resulting from the burn injuries. And the fifth challenge that we are facing is the late arrival of our burn patients. On an average, they take about 8 days to come to our hospital after the burn injuries. By that time, most of the patients are infected. Many of them may pretty close to that death, and that really affects the outcome of the burn care in Nepal, in our place. And the reason is most of our patients sustain burn injuries in their homes, out in the villages, remote areas, and by the time they reach us, they have already spent all their money, and then they are also infected. By the time they come to us, they're basically coming with a lot of other problems, not just the medical, but also financial problems. And the sixth challenge that we are facing is the lack of first aid knowledge among health professionals. I'm sorry to say this, but many of our doctors and nurses, especially working in the emergency room, do not know that they have to pour water after the burn injury, immediately after the burn injury. That too in a running water for about half an hour. That knowledge is not there. So this causes extensive damage, deep burns, leading to need of the surgery, and then outcome is not as good again. This challenge is the lack of critical care for our acute burn patients. Many people don't even understand that the burn patients will also need critical care. Many a times, with the inhalation injury, they need ventilation, sometimes even tracheostomy for several days. And once they are there in the ICU, you need critical care. But the problem is the specialists who know about critical care do not have time or even the mind or even the heart to treat these acute burn patients, because these people are very poor. I have taken several critical care specialists to my hospital who would be, hopefully will be interested in helping us. Not a single one, because it will not take them a long time to understand that most of the burn patients are very poor and they are not going to pay for their sophisticated care. Right now, all of our surgical team members are learning to do the critical care with the help of our anesthesiologists who are providing critical care right now. And we are learning from our anesthesiologists. And they have been very helpful to provide the critical care to our patients. And the eighth challenge is the lack of dermal regeneration template or allograft. We do not have, a lot of people who are donating their skin after their death. For the last 4 years, since we have established our burn, the skin bank, we have a total of 12 donations. Only 12 donations, which is not enough. We have treated in the meantime more than 1,000 patients. That is not enough. When allograft is not available, the second choice is the dermal regeneration template. These are artificial skin. These are very expensive. One piece of 10 into 10 centimeter would cost about $1,000 US. That is 1 lakh rupees in Nepal. And most of our patients, if they spend 1 lakh rupees for taking care of the burn patients, we feel fortunate. We have somebody who can spend 1 lakh rupee for the treatment of their patients. That is the scenario. The ninth challenge is the infection and sepsis in our patients. We have seen, multi-drug resistant or even extended drug resistance infection, especially with Acinetobacter, and we have MRSA also. And most of these patients bring these infections from the periphery because they come to us late. Most of them are already infected, especially with multi-drug resistant organisms. And that also increases the mortality. The outcome is very poor, and then it becomes very expensive to have those, very expensive antibiotics for the treatment of our burn patients. The burn ICU is an open space in our hospital. Most of the other hospitals don't even have burn ICU. This is a facility where we keep 6 patients in one place. We have 4 ventilators. 4 patients can be ventilated at any time and mechanically ventilated and intubated. But it's an open area, open space. Once it is open like this, the infection, cross-infection prevention becomes almost impossible. In the US, I know that just by allocating individual rooms for their patients, they brought the hospital-acquired infection remarkably down, just by putting patients in the individual rooms. If we start putting individual rooms for our patients, the cost is going to be even more expensive. So it's a dilemma for us, for increasing the standard of care and making the treatment expensive. And it may be too expensive for most of our patients. The 10th challenge is the lack of proper physical facility. Most of our facilities do not have burn ICU, as I told you, or dedicated operating rooms, burn wards, and then they have to be designed in a certain way, and that is lacking. And then the community awareness on the prevention and first aid is also important. There is no way we can keep on treating our burn patients. We have to do something about the prevention and also the first aid treatment of our patients in the community, wherever the injury happens. And there are many international organizations who are coming together now, and Research International, as I told you earlier. I'm also the country director for this international organization, and then we have been treating burn patients for the last almost 20 years now. And training and education is a big challenge. That's the only way forward for taking care of our patients. We have to train many more plastic surgeons as well as other burn surgeons, and we have to educate them for taking care of our patients. The most important thing is, I think, attracting young generation of our doctors in the treatment of acute burn care. Now most of the surgeons, general surgeons, would not like to do burn care. Obviously, it's not only in Nepal; it's all over the world. The problem is other specialties, is much more, paying, highly paying, and they also use a lot of, gadgets like, laparoscopic surgery or other kind of, instrumentations that they can use. Whereas in the burn, if we could have, similar kind of, sophistication in the technology, I'm sure more young surgeons could be attracted to this specialty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shankar Man Rai. Last time this presentation was cancelled because of some technical problem, but I think this time there was your voice, and not only the voice, the message was also very much loud and clear. We'd like to take some questions if there is any from different sides. If you have any question, please raise your hands. हात उठाएर क्वेशन छ भने कृपया भनिदिनु होला. हामीले screen. Professor Rai, I would like to ask a question to you. We have been hearing a lot about this new way of, innovative way of covering the burn wound that we read in the newspaper about this leukocyte and platelet rich fibrin. So हामीलाई के भनिदिन चाहनुहुन्छ यसको बारेमा? यो फाइब्रिनले के मद्दत गर्छ बर्न पेसेन्टको लागि?
हजुर, धन्यवाद हजुर, त्यो एकदमै राम्रो क्वेसन. तर अब समस्या के छ भने लार्ज एरियामा अप्लाई गर्नुपर्ने भएको हुनाले त्यो फिब्रिनले काम गर्दैन. फिब्रिन बनाउने भनेको पेसेन्टकै ब्लडबाट हो, and then you have to drain a lot of blood from the patients, and most of your burn patients are already low hemoglobin. They are not producing as many RBCs as they used to do in the normal life. So that's not a practical thing. A practical thing would be to buy the artificial skin, for example, if we can afford, okay? And then I think we should talk to these companies for making these things cheaply available for our poor burn patients, because the same kind of appliances, when they buy in the US, it's very expensive. And the same appliance when it comes to Nepal, including, books, for example, the books which are sold in the US are very expensive. The same books in Nepal, we get them printed in India or other places, and they are cheap. So it has to be available cheaply in countries like ours. And I hope a country like China, which can produce anything, as they should be able to produce this kind of artificial skin on a large scale. Why don't they do that? I'm just wondering why. They should produce those artificial skin in a large scale and supply all over the world. They can make money. At the same time, they will be saving many lives. But this fibrin thing is not practical, since it's a large area of your skin, of your body, that has to be treated, that has to be covered. So that's not going to work. And you need skin for skin, If somebody has a damaged kidney, you need a kidney, right? Similarly, if it is skin, you need skin. But that's a good question.
Thank you, sir. Since we have so many audience today, lots of audience from different part of Nepal, would you like to shed some light on the skin bank that Critical Hospital is running at the moment? Skin bank ko barema ke bhandiनुहुन्छ sir?
Thank you, Dr. Skin bank, this is basically a facility where we can store skin. The skin has to come from dead people, because live people, when they are donating their skin, it's very risky because they have to undergo surgery, they have the problem with the anesthesia, so that's not very practical, even though we have to use that modality in Nepal because of the lack of artificial skin as well as lack of cadaveric skin. Okay, now the skin is coming from the dead people. The skin has to be harvested within 6 hours of the death. That is another problem in Nepal, because a lot of hours are spent on crying and calling and this, that. So by the time they reach the cremation area where we can harvest the skin, or even in the hospital, the time is gone. So, and then there are many people who cannot donate skin. For example, there are certain religious groups, after the date of which you cannot touch the dead body. It will be considered very sacred. Dead body is considered by most of the religious groups as more sacred than a live person. Live person you can touch, right? But dead body you cannot. The dead body cannot be touched by another caste person or another religion person. So it's a complicated thing. That's there. But again, the skin has to be harvested within 6 hours of the death, and then we harvest skin very thinly. It's not the whole thickness of the skin that we harvest. Very thin. Almost all the doctors who know probably about it. The skin is almost like potato peel. As thin as potato peel. But the skin that we harvest like that can be used for saving lives. We can harvest and then we can store it in a very cheap method that we use in Nepal. That's the glycerol solution, 86% glycerol solution, 85-86% glycerol solution, which can be used for storing skin in the refrigerator. You have to put in the refrigerator around 4°, 5° centigrade, dipped in the glycerol solution, and that can be stored as long as for 5 years. But obviously in a country like ours, where there are so many patients who are needing it and so few donors, it doesn't stay there for even a few weeks. So that is the difficulty. And then once we harvest the skin, we harvest only from areas which are covered by the cloth. We do not want to harvest the skin from exposed parts, so that the dead body would not look very horrible. And there will be no bleeding, because after the death there will be no circulation. That is also there. And we do it after the permission of the family. We harvest mainly from the thighs and back and front of the body, but it all depends upon the permitted areas by the family members. But all the family members will have to agree for donation. We cannot harvest the skin without the agreement of all the family members. When there may be one family member who may not agree with the donation, we cannot take the graft. So those are the complexities. And then before we put it onto the patient, we also test the skin for many things. We culture it. We want to know what kind of organism is there. If there is any organism being cultured, we cannot use it. Patients who died of HIV and AIDS, cancer, any skin condition, or septicemia or jaundice, we do not use the skin. We cannot use those things for the fact that we do not want to harvest the skin, transfer the disease from one patient to another.
Thank you very much, sir. कुनै अरु सेन्टरहरुबाट प्लिज इन्डिकेट गरिदिनु होला, हात यसो उठाइदिनु होला. शायद कुनै क्वेसन छैन जस्तो लाग्यो. One last question, Professor Rai. When I worked in other hospital of Kathmandu, like in Patan Hospital, we used to have 3 burn bed over there. But later on, when Kirtipura Hospital started providing burn services, those 3 burn beds were closed down. So these days, Patan Hospital doesn't accept any burn patient. They just do the initial fluid resuscitation, pain management, and they refer it to the Kirtipura Hospital, which is just 5 kilometers away from Patan Hospital. Do you think this is a good sign or a bad sign?
This is a very interesting question and very sensitive question also, I think. There are 2 aspects of this question, I think. One is if the facility where there are dedicated team members, a physical facility which is geared up towards providing, a better kind of service, and it is within few kilometers distance, it's always better to send them to the referral center. I think that's a good idea. But at the same time, if patients have to come from far away, for example, the travel takes, let's say, 12 hours from Nepalganj or so, it's better not to send them immediately. These patients will have to be resuscitated adequately for the first 24 hours before they are sent to wherever, you know. So we see many patients who have not received any resuscitative fluid in spite of that 40-50% burn. These patients will need a lot of resuscitative fluid in terms of like 6 liters, 8 liters, sometimes even 10 liters of fluid within 24 hours. If a patient needs, let's say, 8 liters of IV fluid in 24 hours, and if they have not received any during that time, there is no way this patient is going to survive. So that also is very important. So it all depends upon how far is the facility that you are referring to, and what is the status of that facility. Is that better than yours? Then you have to judge. But as I told you earlier, the burn care needs surgical care. It's not just changing the dressing. A lot of burn units or burn facilities in the country are providing acute burn care just by changing the dressing. That's not enough. These patients will have to be excised and grafted within the first 7 days. That is what is the standard of care. In many developed countries, they excise the burn, no matter what is the percentage, on the same day of the admission. They can do so because they have the facility, and they also have the equipment and then other modalities by which they can cover the wound after excision. Once you excise the wound, it has to be covered. It has to be resurfaced with skin or skin-like, dressing materials or artificial skin. And if that is not available, then you are paralyzed. If you are admitting a patient who needs surgical care, and if you cannot, then it's very complicated. Once you cannot excise them within the first week or so, everything, then these patients will develop sepsis and they will die. So it's a very complicated situation. So I cannot say that they should not refer the patients. I cannot say that. But at the same time, if it is nearby, probably it's better, because we have dedicated team, dedicated facility, and then the appliances that are required for taking care of burn patients.
Thank you, Professor Rai, for not only providing the services to the burn patient, but also for raising the awareness about how to take care of the burn patient and what are the challenges. And probably someday we'll find some solution to all these challenges. Hopeful. Now we have come to the concluding part.
I have a quick question. If Dr. Rai, thank you for interesting presentation. What I was wondering was, तपाईले जुन अब गाइडलाइनहरु भन्नुभयो ट्रिटमेन्ट प्रोसिजरको लागि हैन, लाइक अब विदिन अ वीक अब ग्राफ्टिङ गर्नुपर्छ, यसको लागि केही रेफरेन्स, यो स्ट्यान्डर्ड प्र्याक्टिसको लागि, बेस्ट प्र्याक्टिसको लागि केही रेफरेन्सहरु छ कि, विच लाइक a physician should be following भनौँ न बर्न भिक्टिमको केसमा चाहिँ?
अब यस्तो छ हजुर, यो चाहिँ नै अब हामीले हाम्रै आफ्नो स्ट्यान्डर्ड अफ केयरको हामीले प्रोटोकल बनाएको छौँ हैन। तर अब वेस्टमा चाहिँ मैले अघि पनि भने, अब उनीहरू त त्यो आएको 24 घण्टा भित्रमै सबै बर्न एक्सर्साइज 80% 90% बर्न पनि उनीहरूले एक्सर्साइज गरिसक्छन्, त्यो डिप बर्नलाई, र त्यसलाई चाहिँ रिसर्फेस गर्छन्। उनीहरूसँग त स्किन पनि भयो, जति भने पनि आर्टिफिसियल स्किन पनि छ, त्यो समस्या भएन, र पेसेन्टको फाइनेन्सियल सिचुएसन पनि उनीहरूले केही कन्सिडर गर्नु परेन। हाम्रोमा त्यो भएन। एक त हाम्रो बिरामीहरू एकदमै ढिलो आउने, आइपुग्दाखेरि पनि उनीहरूसँग लार्ज एरिया बर्न हुने बित्तिकै उनीहरूको स्किन पुग्दैन। हामीसँग त स्किन त छैन, स्किन ब्याङ्कमा पनि छैन, अर्को आर्टिफिसियल स्किन पनि हामी किन्न सक्दैनौँ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले लार्ज पर्सेन्ट अफ बर्नहरूको पेसेन्टहरूलाई हामीले बचाउन सकिरहेको छैनौँ कि। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब यो प्रोटोकलमा चाहिँ बेसिकली के छ भन्दाखेरि, अब अधिकांश ठाउँहरूको प्रोटोकल चाहिँ नि यो बर्न चाहिँ डिप बर्न हो भने त्यसलाई एक्सर्साइज गर्नु पर्यो, त्यो पनि एज अर्ली एज पोसिबल है। अर्ली एक्सिजन भन्छौँ हामी। अर्ली एक्सिजनको डेफिनेसन अब फरक ठाउँमा फरक छ। कुनै अब कति डेभलप कन्ट्रिजमा 2 दिन 3 दिनभित्रमा सबै एक्सर्साइज गरिसकेका हुन्छन्, तर हाम्रो जस्तो देशमा चाहिँ 1 हप्ताभित्रमा एक्सर्साइज गर्यो भने पनि इन्फेक्सन हामी प्रिभेन्ट गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने, बिकज to get the wound infected, it takes at least 7 days. After the first 3 days or so, the wound starts getting colonized. Okay, colonization of the microorganism is one thing, and then infection is another. Okay, in the infection, the microorganism will start invading your normal tissue.
मेरो क्वेसन चाहिँ के थियो भने यसको लागि क्लिनिकल गाइडलाइन या रेफरेन्स के स्ट्यान्डर्डहरू छ कि विच इज अभाइलेबल
थुप्रो छ। यसमा चाहिँ यस्तो छ हजुर, यस्तो छ हाम्रो चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ ISBI भन्ने एउटा अर्गनाइजेसन छ। ISBI भएको इन्टरनेसनल सोसाइटी अफ बर्न इन्जुरिज, उनीहरूको आफ्नै प्रोटोकल छ। अमेरिकन बर्न सोसाइटी भन्ने छ एउटा, फेरि अमेरिकन बर्न एसोसिएसन ABA भन्छ, उनीहरूले आफ्नै कोर्सहरू पनि दिन्छ, उनीहरूको पनि प्रोटोकलहरू छ। तर अब कति उनीहरूको प्रोटोकलहरू हामीले ठ्याक्कै अप्लाई गर्नलाई गाह्रो छ। त्यसकारण चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ अलि डेभलपिङ कन्ट्रिजहरूको, पोर कन्ट्रिजहरूको जस्तो र हाम्रो आफ्नो सिचुएसन अनुसारको हामीले गाइडलाइन्सहरू बनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ। तर त्यस्तै खालको गरेर हामीले चलाएको छौँ। र अर्को एउटा अर्गनाइजेसन यस्तोमै चाहिँ काम गरिराखेको, स्ट्यान्डर्ड अफ केयरमा काम गरिराखेको चाहिँ अहिले नयाँ आएको भनेको इन्टरबर्न्स भन्ने छ। इन्टरनेसनल बर्न भन्न खोजेको इन्टरबर्न्स भन्ने, त्यसले पनि हाम्रो काम गरिरहेछ। नेपालमा पनि उनीहरू धेरै आएर काम गरिरहेका छन्। त्यसले पनि विभिन्न स्ट्यान्डर्ड अफ केयरको चाहिँ कुराहरू अहिले बिस्तारै ल्याउँदैछ। थुप्रो त्यो इन्टरनेटमै पाइन्छ। हजुरको इमेल भयो भने हामीहरू त्यो सबै पठाउन सक्छौँ।
हजुर, थ्याङ्क यू, थ्याङ्क यू।
हजुर, क्वेसनहरू केही छ भने राख्नुभयो भने त यता काठमाडौँ मोडल हस्पिटलमा यो इन्टरनेट कनेक्टिभिटीमा प्रब्लम आएर त्यहाँ इन्टरनेट भएको छ। केही छ भने डाक्टर साहबलाई राख्नुभयो हुन्छ।
हेलो
हजुर,
मलाई सुन्नुहुन्छ? हेलो
हजुर, सुनेको छौँ सर, भन्नुभयो भने।
Dr. Rai, thank you for your presentation. It is very interesting. I'm just wondering from policy point of view, about the bond rate in Nepal, very astonishing number you displayed. It's about within Nepal, which region has the most, bond incidents and obviously the highest bond mortality rate. So, stat.
हजुर, साउन्ड आइरहेको छैन सर।
म्युटमा हुनुहुन्छ।
ओके, क्यान यु हियर मी? सुन्नु भएको छ डाक्टर? सुन्या छ?
अहिले सुन्दैछु। हजुर।
अब त्यसको एकदम ठ्याक्कै एक्ज्याक्ट स्ट्याटिस्टिक्स भन्दा पनि हामीसँग आएको बिरामीहरू हेर्न हामी त्यो हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हामीले धेरैसो बाहिर काठमाडौँ बाहिरका र त्यो पनि त्यो रिमोट एरियाजतिरका मान्छेहरू हामीले पाएको छौँ। हामीले चाहिँ नि 66-67 जिल्लाको बिरामीहरू चाहिँ हाम्रोमा एकै वर्षमा हामीले उपचार गरेको पाएको हो। तिनीहरू चाहिँ अधिकांश चाहिँ यो रिमोट एरियाजहरूकै नै मान्छेहरू हुन्। उनीहरू चाहिँ नि ठुलो ठुलो सहरको भन्दा पनि बाहिरकै छन्। तर अब समस्या के भन्दाखेरि उनीहरू चाहिँ नि यहाँसम्म आउनलाई अब त्यो त धेरै गाह्रो कुरा हो नि त। सबै बिरामी त्यहाँ भएको जति सबै बिरामी त हामी कहाँ आइपुगेको होइन। त्यसकारण चाहिँ त्यहाँको इन्सिडेन्स एक्ज्याक्टली हामी कहाँ कति बिरामी आयो भनेर त्यसरी भन्न त मिलेन। हामी कहाँ आउने त उनीहरू अफोर्ड गर्न सक्ने मात्रै बिरामीहरू आउने हो। जस्तो धनगढीबाट आउने बिरामीले एम्बुलेन्समा झन् 20,000 25,000 खर्च गर्नु पर्दो रहेछ हामी कहाँसम्म आइपुग्दाखेरि एउटा एम्बुलेन्समा। भनेपछि त त्यति त सबैले एफोर्ड गर्न सक्दैन। त्यसै गरी गाउँ गाउँका विभिन्न ठाउँको मान्छेहरू पनि त्यहाँ जति बर्न हुन्छ सबै त हामी कहाँ अवश्य पनि आइपुग्दैनन् हैन। त्यो समस्या छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले स्ट्याटिस्टिक्स ठ्याक्कै नेपालकै स्ट्याटिस्टिक्स भन्नलाई चाहिँ गाह्रो हो। त्यसको लागि फेरि बेग्लै रिसर्च पनि गर्न पर्ला। हामी कहाँ आएको त त्यो टिप अफ द आइसबर्ग मात्रै भयो नि। किनभने 55-56 हजार मान्छे आगोले पोल्ने, हामी कहाँ आइपुगेको अब 300-400 मान्छे आइपुग्दाखेरि हामी थुप्रो आइपुग्यो भनेर भन्न पर्ने भइरहेछ। किनभने एउटा सानो अस्पतालमा सबै बिरामी आइपुग्दाखेरि त हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो भयो।
Obviously, rural area, that's what I suspected basically. In terms of infrastructure, beyond incident, the treatment by or infrastructure or house, घरको कन्स्ट्रक्सनहरु देखि लिएर घरको छानाहरु यताता हुन्छ नि तपाईको त्यसपछि दाउराले पकाएको भात खानु पनि यताता गर्दाखेरि a lot of things, just try to analyze the root cause analysis of the bonds incidents Nepalमा Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you.
हजुर धन्यवाद। केही क्वेसन छ? धुलखेल हस्पिटल, पाटन हस्पिटल हुनुहुन्छ, केही प्रश्न छ भने राख्नुभयो हुन्छ, छैन भने अब हामी यो यसलाई आज कन्क्लुड गर्न
Stand questions. Thank you so much. It was really nice presentation. And त्यसमा हामीलाई चाहिँ फिशको स्किनको केही रोल छ कि छैन बर्न म्यानेजमेन्टमा, माछाको स्किन? Is there some advances on that?
So actually फेरि भन्नु त, फेरि अलि ठुलो सरले।
हजुर, फिशको स्किनको केही रोल छ स्किन ग्राफ्टको लागि सट्टा?
फिसको भन्नुभएको? माछाको। ओके ओके, हजुर हजुर। त्यो एउटा युट्युबमा एउटा चाहिँ त्यो आइरहेको थियो भिडियो होइन, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि धेरै मान्छेहरूले त्यो कुराहरू सोधिराखेका छन् क्या युट्युबमा। अब त्यो चाहिँ नि माछाको त्यसरी लिनको लागि नहुने भनेको होइन, त्यस्तो धेरै थरीको ड्रेसिङहरू छ। यहीँ इन्डियामा चाहिँ धेरै मान्छेहरूले बनाना त्यो लिफ छैन, केराको पात, त्यसले उपचार गरेको। इन्डियाकै अर्को एउटा उसले सर्जनले निकाल्यो त्यो पोटेटो पिल, त्यो आलुको बोक्रा के, त्यसबाट उपचार गर्ने। अब त्यस्तो थुप्रो चिजहरू छ। त्यो ड्रेसिङ मात्रै हो डाक्टर साहब होइन, तर त्यसले त त्यो लामो काम गर्ने होइन, थोरै समयको लागि ड्रेसिङको लागि हो। यु क्यान अप्लाई एनिथिङ है कि। त्यो चाहिँ नि इभन के अरे हामीले चाहिँ एम्नियन लगाउँछौँ, एम्नियन पनि त्यो एउटा राम्रो हो। तर यो सबै चाहिँ कसको लागि हो भन्दाखेरि पार्सल थिकनेस बर्न के, त्यो डिप बर्न नभएको सुपरसेल बर्नहरूमा चाहिँ त्यसलाई हामीले चाहिँ यदि त्यहाँ मोइस्ट इन्भाइरोमेन्ट, इन्फेक्सन नहुने खालको इन्भाइरोमेन्ट दियौँ भने त्यो आफै हिल हुन्छ। तर डिप बर्नमा त अरू यस्तो चिज लगाएर त हुँदैन। डिप बर्न भनेपछि चाहिँ त्यसलाई एक्सर्साइज गर्नु पर्यो, अनि त्यसलाई चाहिँ कुनै न कुनै किसिमले ग्राफ्ट गर्नु पर्यो, कुनै न कुनै अर्को चाहिँ स्किन नै ल्याउनु पर्यो। त्यो स्किन चाहिँ बिरामीको आफ्नै स्किन कल्चर गरेर ल्याउने हो कि डेभलप कन्ट्रीमा जस्तो, अथवा मरेको मान्छेको स्किन तर त्यो चाहिँ टेम्पोररीली हो, पछि उसको आर्टिफिसियल स्किन के अरे उसको चाहिँ आफ्नै स्किन कल्चर गर्ने, अथवा बाँकी भएको नजलेको ठाउँबाट फेरि निकाल्न सकिन्छ। प्रत्येक 2 हप्ता जस्तोमा हामी स्किन निकाल्दै फेरि लगाउँदै त्यसरी हामी चाहिँ बचाउने हो डेभलप कन्ट्रिजहरूमा चाहिँ। त्यस कारण चाहिँ त्यो माछाको छाला चाहिँ टेम्पोररीली हो, ड्रेसिङ हो, गर्न सकिन्छ।
थ्याङ्क यू सर।
हजुर, थ्याङ्क यू।
हजुर केही छ त अरू क्वेसन? पाटनबाट केही छ सर? छैन जस्तो छ। अब सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। रवि सर एनरेनसम्म आइपुगेर प्रेजेन्टेसन दिनुभयो, अनि शङ्कर सर आइरम पुग्नुभयो। हाम्रो यो टेक्नोलोजी एनरेनको यो नेटवर्क अनि यो ई क्लास को कारणले गर्दा अब शङ्कर सर टिचिङ हस्पिटलमा एउटा कार्यक्रमको लागि पुग्नु भएको थियो, त्यहीँबाटै यो प्रेजेन्टेसन दिन सजिलो भयो यो एनरेनको ई क्लास प्लेटफर्मबाट। अब हामीले यो मन्थली सेड्युल गरिरहेका छौँ। अब नेक्स्ट मन्थ हामीले अब न्यू प्रेजेन्टरलाई दिएर हामी फेरि अनाउन्समेन्ट गर्छौँ। हामीले यता एनएन एउटा भाइबर ग्रुप पनि छ, अनि मेलिङ ग्रुप पनि बनाएका छौँ यो इन्टर हस्पिटल सेयरिङको। र सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद आज एटेन्ड गर्नुभयो। अनि यो हामीले यो आजको रेकर्डेड भिडियोलाई चाहिँ हामीले एनरेनको युट्युब च्यानलमा पनि राख्छौँ। एनरेनको आफ्नै युट्युब च्यानल छ, त्यसमा रेकर्डेड यो आजको सबै भिडियो रेकर्डेड भएको छ, यसलाई हामी त्यसबाट डिस्प्ले पनि गर्छौँ। हस्, सबैजनालाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। हस्,
थ्याङ्क यू।
धन्यवाद विशाल, धन्यवाद है, तिमी त्यहाँ अहिलेसम्म बसिरहेको छौ विशाल। थ्याङ्क यू एभ्रिबडी।